Hello, I'm Richard. This is the second video of the 5-part series I'm doing on STAR children, how to handle them for parents and teachers. The second principle, which is actually probably one of the most important, is this: to change your expectations. First of all, expectations come from information, experiences from the past and into the present. We are typically programmed to move into the future by looking at what's worked in the past and what we are doing in the present. The problem is when you try to drive into the future that is completely different, looking at the rear vision mirror at what's worked in the past, it doesn't work. It actually is fraught with a lot of trauma, problems, and it could at times be dangerous. Now, the expectations that parents and teachers have are based on traditional values and principles that have worked as they've grown up as part of the Industrial Revolution. So, what is important in that age? Very simple. We have a world and economy based on manufacturing. You have commerce, where you have goods that you buy, trade, and sell. Then you have organizations that facilitate that whole process. And you have consistent jobs to facilitate the entire machine. So the whole education system is revolving around producing people who have skills that are consistent to work in a job to produce all that in that machine. However, the world is changing very, very rapidly. In the next 10 years, 40% of jobs today will not exist anymore over the next 10 years as a result of change. And the change we've seen is very, very rapid. For example, in 2007, Steve Jobs brought out the iPhone. The Nokia phone company laughed at him. They were a multi-billion-dollar company that owned the mobile space in the entire world, in every single country just about. 3 years down the track, they were dead. Today, we have the taxi industry under threat. We have the motel industry under threat from Airbnb. The banking industry is about to go through a huge change because traditional institutions within the next 5-10 years will no longer cease to exist when all the banking is done on the app on your iPhone. So there's all these changes happening. And so the education system, which is based on the Greek philosophy of thinking, which is linear thinking, left brain, logic, is going to be less and less relevant today. The other issue is this: the learning style and profile of a student required to go through the education system is completely the opposite of those of STAR children coming out today, which is why school doesn't fit them. And school not fitting them is the worst for the most recent rainbow children. So first point is that your view of the world is very different to the view of these STAR children. In other words, it's like completely different planets, completely different worlds. Your world, the world that older generation know, that is consistent, where change is slow, where things are based on what was happening yesterday is the same today and the same tomorrow. We are not in this world today. It is very, very different. Many older people are struggling with the pace of change. The younger generation lap it up. So your view of the world is very different, particularly your view on success, your view on abundance, your view on wealth, your view on what's good, etc. And so that needs to be looked at and addressed. The problem with change is that it's challenging. Most people don't like change, particularly when they've developed into a modus operandi and a comfort zone that serves them. The second point is that your view of success is out of date. So the current view of success, the traditional view, is to go to school, study, work hard, get good grades, go into university, get a degree in a good job, work for a company, work your way up, earn as much money as you can from your employment, travel if possible, buy a house, get married, have kids, put them through school, save enough money for your retirement, and have, in inverted commas, a good life. That is the traditional view of success. Most people will not encourage their kids to go into business because of the risks involved, because they've been programmed to believe in the security of a job. Today, a job is less secure than business because of the rapid change. So, what is success? Success is not also just monetary success. Success is being empowered to be able to fulfill your high potential and do what you believe you need to do, make a difference in the world. And so whichever way that looks for the individual is true success. So the view of success needs to change. And success for each child could be different depending on their personalities and their passions, as well as what they're here to do in terms of accomplish in their life. Point number 3, your parenting techniques and skills are mostly out of date. Now, this is not about putting parents and teachers down. It's about stating the sign of the times. The sign of the times whereby what was done before is no longer relevant or working as well. And so traditional schooling techniques and parenting techniques with the recent children don't work. They don't because they're so different. The challenge is that what you do instead, there's very, very little out there to help you. Hence, I'm producing a series of videos to give some insight into that. I don't profess to have all the answers. However, I have some ideas and suggestions that are very different that will be useful. Number 4, you need to shift and expand and evolve your thinking. So every limitation comes about as a result of a series of thoughts and belief systems that form a paradigm that people use to create their model of the world. And so that has to evolve as the world evolves, because there's new information, there's new things happening, there's new trends, there's new ways of doing things. So looking at things differently is very important, changing your thinking. This is a process I personally have gone through over the last 10 years, a very dramatic shift in evolution of thinking and consciousness. And this is what's required to keep pace with what's going on and also to tune into what's happening on the planet at a global level. Point 5, you'll be challenged to transcend any dysfunctional parenting and relationships. We cannot help but have some dysfunctional aspects of our parenting and relationships. It's all part of the human condition. And we go through that as part of our growth in evolution to learn and transcend these things. Issues happen in our life to teach us things. And until you get that particular lesson, you do not move on to the next area of life. And so the star children are here to be in your face to challenge any dysfunctional parenting that you have. And also any dysfunctional relationship you have with your significant other is going to impact even more greatly on these children who are very sensitive to what's going on. The bottom line of all this is not to try to fix the problem with the kids, but to look at what you can do yourself in terms of who you are, where you are, and evolve and grow. So as you grow, in terms of your thinking, your consciousness, you'll be better equipped to put into these amazing beings that are here on the planet to help humanity evolve and the earth evolve. I will finish with a personal story in relationship to all this. My son was born in 1995, and he was a miracle baby. We were not supposed to have him medically. So that made him special. He's definitely a crystal child. He displays a lot of the characteristics. However, he was never one of these that couldn't sit still. He was one of these that was bored in school, so school bored him. But he persevered and pushed through it. He was an only child, so I spent a lot of time with him in the years I was his dad, playing with him, taking him, doing different experiences, etc. When he was born, I went through a huge epiphany. And that epiphany was that what I knew, what I experienced, and what my father was like as a model, as a parent, was completely inadequate for him. So the first 3 years of his life, I went on this huge odyssey researching fatherhood, looking back into history, looking forward, looking at trends, to see what I could learn to re-equip myself to be the dad I needed to be for my son. And that quest and all that time and effort was very successful because I brought him up completely differently from traditional parenting. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. At the age of 12, I asked him the question, "Son, you are now 12 years old. I'd like you honestly to give me a rating in terms of how I have performed as your dad out of 10. He said 9.5. And I was immensely thrilled at that. Then I asked him the question, well, where's the other 0.5, son, if I was 9.5? And he piped up and said, Dad, I can't give you a 10. You're not perfect. So that was really funny. But that shows you the kind of consciousness and thinking and wisdom of the child. So when you look at star children, change your expectations. Shift your boundaries. Shift what you want them to do. Instead of looking at what you want them to do, move and flow with them. Guide them. Don't put them in a box. And if they're not going to sit still, don't make them. Again, you've got to look at practical issues around that, but they're the general principles. So when you've got a ball of energy, putting that ball of energy in a box is only going to cause that box to be destroyed. So when you have a ball of energy that moves, you have to flow with it. And that is the principle with these children. And so when you flow with them, you have an opportunity to direct them and shift them. And that is the best approach. So the bottom line is, change your expectations. Ditch the old and create the new for yourself and your wonderful children. I'm Richard.